It started with a shadow in the corner of her eye, a knock that echoed in the night, and a note that sent chills down her spine. He was always closer than she thought. No matter where she went, he was there watching, waiting. But now, the walls of her own home are hiding a secret far darker than she ever imagined. In a game of cat and mouse, survival is no longer guaranteed. It's almost 2 a.m., and the diner is dead quiet. The kind of quiet that feels unnatural. The hum of the refrigerator and the occasional flicker of the neon sign outside are the only sounds. The parking lot is empty except for my old car. And inside, the light buzzes overhead, casting a harsh glow over the vinyl booths and linoleum floor. I've worked here long enough to know this routine by heart. The graveyard shift rarely brings excitement. The regulars stop coming in after midnight, and now there's just him. I noticed him when he came in around 11. Tall, gaunt, dressed in clothes that could blend into any crowd. He walked straight to a booth in the corner, the one just out of reach of the main lights. The kind of spot where you could disappear. I remember thinking it was strange he didn't look at the menu. Didn't even ask for food, just a cup of coffee. Black. I served him and forgot about him, as I've done with 100 other late-night customers. But now, 3 hours later, he's still there. He hasn't touched the coffee since his first sip. I'm wiping down the counter for the 5th time tonight when I glance at him again. His eyes are on me. At first, I think it's just the usual kind of stare people get bored waiting around, and I'm the only one here. But something feels different about this. His gaze isn't casual. It's piercing, like he's sizing me up, reading me. I turn back to the counter, trying to shake off the unease creeping into my chest. The diner always feels eerie at this hour, especially when I'm alone. The other waitress called out sick, and the cook left after midnight. It's just me, the diner, and this man who hasn't moved in hours. I start doing small tasks to keep my mind busy, refilling the sugar dispensers, checking the clock, anything to pass the time. But I can feel his eyes on me, following me as I move from table to table. I don't want to look, but I can't help it. When I finally glance over again, he's still watching, unblinking. That's when I notice something strange, his face. There's a familiarity to it that sends a chill down my spine. But I can't place where I've seen him before. I walk back to the counter, my hands shaking just slightly as I check the clock. Another 2 hours until my shift is over. Another 2 hours alone with him. I try to tell myself I'm being paranoid. It's just a guy, a customer like any other. Maybe he's waiting for someone. But my gut tells me something's off. I decide to clear his table, hoping to break the tension. As I approach, I realize he's still staring at me, his eyes tracking every step I take. I reach out to grab his empty cup, and that's when I see it, a folded piece of paper tucked under the saucer. My heart skips a beat. I've cleaned a lot of tables, but this feels deliberate, like he wanted me to find it. I glance at him, but his expression doesn't change. He doesn't move. I take the cup and the note back to the counter, pretending nothing's wrong. My fingers tremble as I unfold the paper. There, in neat handwriting, are 3 words. I know you. I freeze. My breath catches in my throat, and suddenly, the diner feels suffocating. I look up at him. He hasn't moved, hasn't reacted. But those words on the paper, they're not random. They can't be. My mind races. How does he know me? From where? A dozen thoughts flash through my head. Did I serve him before? Has he been here before and I didn't notice? But no. There's something more to this. Something that makes my skin crawl. I've always been careful. I don't post much online. I don't talk about my life to strangers. But now, I feel exposed, like he's peeled back some layer of privacy I didn't even know I had. I try to stay calm, forcing myself to focus on the mundane tasks again. Cleaning tables, wiping down the counter, pretending like everything's fine. But my hands are cold and my stomach churns with unease. He's still watching, and the longer he sits there, the more I'm convinced this isn't a coincidence. He knows me, he knows things about me. Another hour passes, and he hasn't moved. I try to shake off the rising panic, but it clings to me like a shadow. I can't leave. My car is out there in the empty lot, and the thought of walking outside with him watching makes my skin crawl. I grab the phone, pretending to check the time, but really I'm considering calling anyone. But who would I call at this hour? What would I even say? That there's a guy sitting in a booth, staring at me? That he knows me? It sounds ridiculous. I put the phone down and glance at the clock. Only 30 minutes left. I just have to make it through the next half hour. Then I can leave. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I see him stand up. My heart lurches in my chest. Slowly, deliberately, he walks toward the door, his boots echoing in the silence of the diner. I hold my breath, waiting for him to leave. But he doesn't. He stops just short of the door, his hand resting on the handle, and turns to look at me one last time. And then he smiles. It's the kind of smile that makes your blood run cold. Like he knows something I don't. Something terrible. He opens the door and steps out into the night, disappearing into the darkness. For a few minutes, I stand frozen behind the counter, staring at the empty booth. My body is trembling, but I don't move. The paper is still in my hand, the words burned into my mind. I know you, and somehow I know this isn't the end. I'll see him again, maybe not tonight, maybe not for a while, but he'll be back. And when he does, I won't be ready. It's been 2 weeks since that night at the diner, but I can't shake the feeling that he's still out there. Watching, waiting. Every time I walk into work, my stomach knots, and I feel the weight of his stare, even when the booth in the corner is empty. I tried telling myself it was a coincidence, that maybe I imagined the whole thing, that the note was just a prank. But deep down, I know better. The first few days after the encounter, I told myself I'd be fine. I try to move on, keep working, keep living, but something in me has shifted, like a piece of my mind broke off that night and never came back. I don't sleep well anymore. Every sound in my apartment feels like it's him. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind against the window makes my heart race. I've started checking the locks on my door 5, 6, 7 times before I can go to bed, and even then, I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, listening for something. Someone. Tonight, I'm back on the graveyard shift alone again. The diner feels different now. The same hum of the refrigerator, the flickering neon sign, the dull glow of the fluorescent lights. It's all the same. But now there's something else here, something lurking in the corners, invisible but suffocating. The booth in the corner, the one he sat in, is empty, but it feels occupied, like his presence has stained it. It's ridiculous, I know, but I can't help it. Every time I pass by, my skin prickles, and I find myself glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see him sitting there again, that same unblinking stare, that same smile. The clock ticks slowly tonight, each minute dragging longer than the last. The diner is quiet, no customers, no cars outside. Just me and my thoughts. I try to distract myself, clean the tables, wipe the counters, organize the condiments. But every now and then, my eyes flick to the door, half expecting him to walk in. My mind races through the possibilities. What if he's been watching me these past 2 weeks? What if he knows where I live? What if he's waiting for the right moment to strike? It's hard to focus, and my hands shake as I pour another cup of coffee for myself. I don't even like coffee, but I need something to do, something to keep my hands busy. I stare out the window, trying to spot any movement in the parking lot, but it's just as empty as it was hours ago. I'm about to turn away when I see it. A dark shape in the distance, just beyond the edge of the neon light's reach. My heart stops. It's standing by the tree line, barely visible in the shadows, but I know it's him. He's back, watching, waiting. I feel frozen, like my legs won't respond, like my body knows what's coming, but my mind refuses to accept it. I want to run, but where would I go? I'm trapped here, stuck in this fluorescent box, exposed. I glance around the diner, desperate for something, anything that could help me feel safe. But the room feels smaller now, the walls closing in. The knife by the register looks pathetic, a flimsy defense against the terror gnawing at my mind. I tell myself to breathe, to calm down, that maybe it's just a trick of the light. But the shape doesn't move. It just stands there silent, waiting. I decide to step outside, to confront whatever this is, even though every instinct is screaming at me to stay inside, to hide. My hand trembles as I unlock the door and step out into the cold night air. The wind is biting, and the stillness is deafening. I keep my eyes locked on the tree line, but the shape is gone. Just like that, it vanished. I feel a rush of relief, but it's short-lived. As I turn to go back inside, something catches my eye, a piece of paper folded neatly on the windshield of my car. My blood runs cold. I know without looking what it says. My fingers fumble as I unfold the note, my breath quickening. I'm closer than you think. The note slips from my hand, carried away by the wind as I back away, my chest tightening with panic. I run inside, slam the door, and lock it, my heart pounding in my ears. I feel like I'm suffocating. I lean against the counter, trying to catch my breath, trying to make sense of what's happening. How did he get that close without me seeing? How long has he been watching? I rush to the windows, pulling down the blinds, locking myself in this little fluorescent prison. My hands are shaking uncontrollably now. I grab the phone, dialing the number for the police, but I freeze halfway through. What would I even tell them? That someone's watching me? That he's leaving notes? That I feel like I'm being hunted? It sounds absurd. No one would believe me. There's no proof. Nothing but the growing pit of dread in my stomach. I hang up the phone. I can't call anyone. Not yet. I have to figure this out myself. I pace the diner, my mind racing with possibilities, with fears, with doubts. Maybe he's not even real. Maybe I'm imagining all of this. Maybe I'm losing my mind. But deep down, I know the truth. He's real, and he's not going to stop. The hours drag on. I keep my back to the counter, my eyes darting from the door to the windows, waiting for something, anything to happen. But nothing does. Just the quiet hum of the refrigerator, the flickering of the neon sign, the ticking of the clock. It's almost worse this way. The waiting, the not knowing. Then, just as dawn begins to break, something shifts in the air. A subtle change, barely noticeable, but enough to set every nerve in my body on edge. I hear the soft creak of the diner's door, like someone gently pushing it open. My heart skips a beat. I didn't hear footsteps. I didn't hear the bell chime, but the door is moving. I turn, slowly, my breath caught in my throat. The door swings open, just a crack, the cold morning air slipping in. And there, on the floor in front of the door, is another note. I don't need to pick it up to know what it says. See you soon. The door closes softly, as if it was never touched. I'm not alone. I never was. And I don't think I ever will be again. It's been 3 months since I found that last note at the diner. 3 months of living in constant fear, watching over my shoulder and wondering when or if he'll show up again. Every time I hear a door creak or a floorboard shift, my heart stops. My body tenses, waiting for him to step out of the shadows. But he never does. The days have melted into one long blur of anxiety and exhaustion. If I hardly slept, the nightmares come every time I close my eyes. His face in the dark, that smile, the feeling of being watched. I hear footsteps that aren't there. I wake up with a jolt, drenched in sweat, only to realize it was just my mind playing tricks on me. What is it? I'm not sure anymore. I quit the diner a month ago. I couldn't stand being there alone at night, waiting for him to return, wondering if this time he'd do more than leave a note. The booth he sat in became unbearable, a black hole in the corner of the room that sucked the life out of me every time I looked at it. So, I left. I thought it would help, thought that maybe if I just stayed away from that place, I'd be free of him. But the fear followed me home. I moved to a new apartment, farther away, out of the town, hoping the distance would keep him away. I changed my phone number, deleted my social media accounts, did everything I could to disappear. But even in this new place, in a quiet neighborhood where no one knows me, I can't shake the feeling that he's still watching, that he's still out there. The worst part is the waiting, the silence. I haven't heard from him since that last note, but I know this isn't over. He said he'd see me soon, and every day, I wonder if today the day will be he shows up again. Every knock on the door, every rustle of leaves outside sends a spike of terror through me. I feel trapped inside my own head, haunted by the thought of him. I don't leave the apartment unless I must. I've become a prisoner of my own fear, my world shrinking down to these 4 walls, this tiny space where I can control who comes in and who goes out. But tonight, something feels different. There's a heaviness in the air, a pressure that's been building all day. I try to tell myself it's nothing, just my nerves acting up again, but I can't shake the sense that something is coming. It's late. I've been pacing the apartment for hours, unable to sit still, every noise outside making my skin crawl. I check the windows again, making sure they're locked. I glance out at the empty street below, the streetlight casting long shadows across the pavement. Everything looks normal, but I know better. I turn back to the room, scanning every corner, every shadow, as if I might catch a glimpse of him lurking there. But the apartment is still, suffocating in its quietness. I can hear the clock ticking in the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant hum of the city outside. It all feels too normal, too calm. I sink into the couch, trying to breathe, trying to convince myself that it's all in my head. But just as I begin to relax, there's a sound. Faint, but unmistakable. A soft tapping, almost like a knock, but not quite. It's coming from somewhere inside the apartment. My stomach drops. I freeze, straining to listen, my heart thudding in my chest. The tapping continues, slow and deliberate, like someone knows I'm listening, like someone is testing me. I stand up slowly, my body tense, every muscle screaming at me to run, but I don't know where to go. The tapping grows louder, more insistent. It's coming from behind the wall, in the hallway. My mind races. I moved here to get away from him. How could he have found me? How could he be in my apartment? I grab my phone, my fingers fumbling as I scroll through my contacts, debating whether to call the police. But I know they won't find anything. They didn't believe me the last time when I tried to explain what had been happening. No evidence, no crime. Just my paranoia. The tapping stops. The sudden silence is worse than the sound itself. I stand there, clutching my phone, my breath shallow, waiting for something to happen. The apartment is so quiet now that I can hear the blood rushing in my ears. And then I hear it. Footsteps. Soft, deliberate footsteps, moving down the hallway toward my door. I back up, my body pressed against the wall, my eyes locked on the front door. The footsteps stop just outside. I wait, every nerve in my body screaming for something, anything to happen. And then, as if on cue, a soft, almost gentle knock on the door. I don't move. I can't. My feet feel glued to the floor. The knock comes again, a little louder this time. I swallow, my throat dry, my heart pounding in my chest. I know it's him. It must be. I force myself to move, stepping slowly toward the door, my hands trembling as I reach for the peephole. I hesitate, afraid of what I'll see on the other side. But I must know. I press my eye to the peephole and stare into the hallway. There's no one there. My stomach twists. I step back, confused, my mind racing to make sense of it. The knock was real. I heard it. The footsteps. They were real. But the hallway is empty. I back away from the door, my heart pounding, and that's when I see it. Something on the floor, just inside the door frame. A small, folded piece of paper. I didn't hear it slide under the door, but it's there, as real as the last one. My hands are shaking as I pick it up. I know what it's going to say before I even unfold it, but I open it anyway, my breath catching in my throat. I told you, I'm closer than you think. I drop the note, my vision blurring with panic. He's here, inside, somewhere. I rush through the apartment, checking the closets, the bathroom, under the bed. But there's no sign of him. Just a note sitting on the floor, taunting me. I lock myself in the bedroom, my back pressed against the door, my mind spinning out of control. I thought I could escape him, thought I could outrun whatever this is. But now I know the truth. He's always been closer than I thought. And this time, I don't think he's going to stay hidden for long. I sit on the bedroom floor, back pressed hard against the door, my breathing shallow and frantic. The note sits on the floor a few feet away, taunting me with its message. I'm closer than you think. The weight of those words sinks in deeper than before. He's inside. I know it now. Somehow he's been here all along. My mind races, scanning every inch of this tiny apartment for an explanation. I checked the doors, the windows, everything was locked. How did he get in? Where is he hiding? I can't shake the feeling that he's been watching me this whole time. Not from outside, but from within. My skin crawls with the thought. How long has he been inside these walls, unseen, waiting for this moment? I stand up slowly, my body trembling with fear and adrenaline. My eyes dart around the room, scanning every shadow, every corner. I have to do something. I can't just sit here, waiting for him to strike. I grab my phone from the nightstand, my fingers trembling as I dial the police. The line rings, but before I can hear a voice on the other end, the phone dies completely. The screen goes black. Panic floods my veins. The power must have been cut. I rush to the window, pulling back the curtains, hoping to see the lights of the street below. But everything is dark. The entire block is out. My heart races faster. This is no coincidence. He's doing this. He's in control. I turn back to the bedroom, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The silence is oppressive, thicker than ever before. I don't know where he is, but I can feel his presence, like a shadow clinging to the walls. The tapping, the notes, the footsteps, they've all led to this moment. I grab the only thing I can find for protection, a small pair of scissors from the dresser, and hold them tightly in my shaking hands. They feel useless, but they're all I have. I force myself to move, opening the bedroom door, just a crack, listening for any sound from the apartment. Nothing. I step out into the hallway, my senses on high alert. The living room is bathed in shadows, the moonlight casting faint patterns on the walls. I inch forward, my body tense, every nerve on edge, expecting him to jump out at any moment. But the apartment is eerily still, as if it's holding its breath, waiting. Then I hear it, a soft creak from the other side of the living room, near the closet. My stomach drops. He's here. I move slowly, each step feeling like it takes an eternity, the scissors clenched tightly in my hand. The door to the closet is slightly ajar, just enough for someone to slip inside. My heart pounds in my chest as I approach, my hand trembling as I reach for the handle. I take a deep breath and yank the door open, my eyes scanning the darkness inside. Empty. My body sags with a mix of relief and confusion. He's not here. But I heard something. I know I did. My pulse thunders in my ears, my skin prickling with the sensation that something is wrong. And then I realize I've been looking in the wrong place. The walls. The closet. The tapping. He's been inside the walls. I freeze, the air around me turning colder as the realization hits me. My apartment, this place that I thought was mine, my refuge, has been his all along. He's been inside the walls, moving silently, watching me, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The tapping wasn't a warning. It was him, testing the boundaries, seeing how close he could get. And now I've cornered myself. Suddenly, there's a loud creak, not from the closet, but from behind me. I spin around, my heart hammering in my chest, just in time to see a panel in the wall slide open, revealing a dark, narrow space, a crawl space. A figure emerges slowly, deliberately, stepping out from the shadows. He's tall, gaunt, just like I remember, his face pale and hollow, his eyes locking onto mine with that same unsettling smile. My body locks in place, frozen with fear. I can't move. I can't scream. It's him. He was here the whole time, just beyond the walls, watching, waiting for me to figure it out. He steps closer, his movements unnervingly calm, like he knows there's nowhere for me to run. The scissors in my hand feel pathetic now, useless against the terror that grips me. My breath is shallow, my mind racing, trying to figure out how to survive this. But it's too late. He's only a few feet away now, his eyes never leaving mine. I feel the walls closing in, the air growing thicker. I want to scream, but my voice is trapped in my throat. And then, just as he reaches out toward me, I see it, his hand. It's trembling. I blink, confused, my terror momentarily overshadowed by this small, inexplicable detail. His hand, once steady and confident, is shaking just like mine. For a brief moment, I see something in his eyes, a flicker of something human, something vulnerable. And then it hits me. He's afraid too. Before I can process it, he steps back, his expression faltering, as if he's suddenly unsure. I don't know what's changed, but I can feel the power shift. He's been in control this whole time, but now, for the first time, he's hesitating. I take a step forward, still clutching the scissors, and something in his demeanor shifts entirely. He backs away, retreating into the crawl space, his eyes wide with something I never expected fear. Without thinking, I slam the panel shut, locking him inside. I stand there, breathing hard, my body trembling. I don't know how long I stay there, staring at the wall, my mind reeling from what just happened. He's gone. Trapped. For the first time in months, the weight lifts off my chest. I don't know if he'll ever come back. I don't know if this is truly over. But for now, the walls are silent, and I'm still standing. The nightmare might be over, but the fear lingers. Could he still be there, watching from the shadows, closer than she thinks? If you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment with your thoughts, and check out another one of our terrifying tales. Stay tuned for more spine-chilling videos.